Rejected and abandoned. Then they took him and cast him into a pit. And the pit was empty. There was no water in it. Genesis 37:24. Joseph was rejected, abandoned, and cast into a pit by his brothers. They wanted to kill him, but Reuben snatched Joseph out of their hands. Judah convinced them to sell Joseph to the Ishmaelites. God intervened. Joseph suffered in that dark pit as he cried out to be lifted up. The horror that teenage boy felt. Like Daniel, he was stripped of everything and became a slave and was thrown into a pit. Are you in the pit with no rations and nobody coming to save you? Do you feel rejected and abandoned for being righteous and telling the truth? Have you been given divine revelation, spiritual truths, or visions from Jesus Christ? Much is expected from those who have been given much. Joseph may have been a little proud of his technicolor coat and dreams of ruling his family, but did that really warrant these results? There's a price for sharing God's revelations to you with others. Do you stop telling the truth for fear of rejection from friends and family? You may be feeling like Joseph today and wonder if you have taken things too far. If you remain silent, the rocks will cry out. There's no stopping or delaying God's ultimate plan. He will use someone else. You may be spared the rejection, but also the prize this time. Next time, you may be disciplined or even judged for being disobedient for not warning others about the things of God, especially as it relates to these end times. Joseph and Daniel were delivered and elevated by God. He used these mighty men in ways because they dared to speak up. They dared to obey God. He gave them so much more for using their gifts and talents against life-threatening opposition. Daniel and Joseph experienced many trials to bring about God's glory. Both were as good as dead, like Abraham. You may feel as good as dead. Don't lose heart. Don't let the cold, damp pit you're in discourage you. Your obedience to God brings suffering and bears witness to the glorious hope men desperately need today. There's a purpose in the pit. Learn from Joseph. He carried God's commission and ushered in the hope and salvation figuratively and literally. We are called to suffer in feeding God's sheep. Sheep feeding sheep. Be a sheep feeder in all you do. Bring them the bread of life and the living water. Your suffering from the pit produces fruit that lasts and food for the hungry in a starving world. Your pit experience today can bring a glorious return for God tomorrow, the saving of many people. But as for you, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good, in order to bring about, as it is this day, to save many people alive. Genesis 50:20.